Okay, for people who are joining this live stream, this is our first design meeting for 2018 that we're live streaming. And it is about a feature that's coming in the next version of Wolfram Language and will be further developed in later versions. And it has to do with being able to create chats in the language. So let's create a chat. Enable chat services. Chat services are not enabled in your preferences. Where are they in the preferences?
Well, you can tab. Yeah. Or
I'm sorry?
They're under the services tab in the preferences dialog.
What was it just doing? Why did it just?
It was enabling it for you.
Yeah, but why did it take so long? What is it doing?
Start up our kernel.
Yeah, chat services uses a separate kernel, and it
really
had to launch that, and it's for security purposes. It doesn't show up there.
Yes, it does. It says chat tools. What is that kernel?
That's old. I need to have Roger remove that.
Yeah, ours is called chat services. That's just some cruft on your machine.
Okay. Okay. All right. So who am I going to chat with? Let's chat with Brian. Is this
Yep.
I pressed OK. The OK button does not light up, and it should.
Yeah, and it.
Okay. And then it needs some kind of indicator that it's working, right?
Okay.
Participants will be invited to this chat after your first message. Why?
Because if you make a mistake, then if you accidentally invited somebody that you didn't want to, then I mean that's how other chat systems work. Nobody ever sees that you want to chat with somebody until you've actually sent them something. So I don't see anything on my screen yet, but once.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So if I go plain text.
Plain text is also the default, but yeah.
Okay. And how do I send? Is there a
so you
command?
Can click the button or Alt Enter, like it says. And I got your invitation.
Okay.
And
what's in that?
Just sent something back.
Okay. View participants.
So eventually we'll be able to change participants to, I think, from that view, but right now.
Okay, so if this okay, so are you Mr. Green at this point, so to speak?
Right. Well, and
how is that allocated?
It's there's a cycling set of colors. Right now, you'll always be that color in your chat, and I'll always be this color in this chat. If there were more people, you'd see a different color. Okay. I don't know how many colors we have able to be allocated right now.
Fine. All right, so now let's say I send you, oops, that won't work, will it? Why is there no tongue? Oh, there is a tongue here.
An input cell works too, there.
This graphic design is not perfect, in my opinion. Like, for example, those buttons, is Billy with us here? I mean, those buttons are a little bit weird in terms of, I wonder if this shouldn't be a thought bubble button, so to speak, to indicate that that's what you're going to get is one of those. I mean, I also kind of wonder, you know, as chats go, don't essentially all modern chat systems now have little thought bubbly things on there? I mean, it's sort of surplus to requirements. And also, why is there so much space on the left here?
That's to allow for labels if you have them, which they're off by default, but you can turn them on, and it would keep it from jumping. Some of the design here in these notebooks needs to be tweaked still, and that's on my plate to do. It's still.
Is there a spec for it or not?
Yeah, we do have a spec, and Billy and Brady can pass it along. Yeah.
I think those bubbles are pretty rare, although alignment left and right for who you are and who everybody else is more common, I think.
Why does this give my email address, whereas this is giving just the person's name?
Right. So we have a way to provide aliases. If under the window menu, you go to chat settings, the actual window menu at the top of the product.
What are you showing me here? Sorry. Brady.
Sorry, I just sent along the design spec if you wanted to look at it.
Okay. And so this design spec has not yet been followed. Is that correct?
Not entirely. There are pieces of it that are implemented, but certainly the chat window here that we're looking at needs some reskinning.
Okay, so this name aliasing thing, what is that? Is that something, some variable I can see that gives me that name? Is that in the user preferences and things?
It's there's actually a chat settings window. It's under the window menu. You can go to window chat settings.
Really
and
weird.
in that you
Why on earth is it under the window menu?
Well, it was originally going to be sort of like it was sort of going to be analogous to the activity monitor, and that was why we wanted it there. So this screen name defaults, of course, to your email address, like you saw. If it's blank, you can put whatever you want in there.
Okay, but so is there a variable in the kernel that
it's in the front end, actually?
Well, but that's not good enough because we've got a separate set of things that we're using, right? For a kernel variable that you can set in the account settings in the cloud, right? That gives
what the user information.
No, it gives, I forget what it's called, but it gives your name, and it's not called screen name either.
Well, when we were implementing this, the cloud version of aliasing and screen names, whatever, was still very much in flux.
Okay, but it isn't anymore.
It isn't anymore? Okay.
It's not anymore. It's done now. So why don't you figure out what that, let's see, I can probably find a version here.
Are we talking about the user URL base?
Registered username, maybe?
Yeah, registered username. That's the thing.
Is that new?
No, I don't say that is empty for me. Not sure.
It doesn't do auto-completing. And why isn't this, hey, wait a minute. Why is this switched off syntax coloring? That's
because
wrong.
that is a consequence of the fact that we have this separate kernel.
But that's wrong. It's wrong.
Okay, I mean we've discussed it. I've discussed it with Lou and Ian, and there are some consequences to turning it on.
What are they?
Perhaps slower startup time. I mean, we're talking about also it would probably have to load the control equals framework and things that are
tough luck.
Well, I mean, okay, it might affect chat startup time.
Well, then pre-start it somehow. I mean, if you, I see the problem is, but you certainly can start it at the point where I ask for a new chat window. You don't have to wait until I send something to start the background kernel. Right?
Oh, it does. It does start when you do file new chat. Well, actually, if you had chat services enabled, it would start at startup, and then there would have been a lot less lag while we were working while you were doing your first chat here. But it's for that case where you don't have it started, where it might take 4 or 5 seconds.
Okay. All right. Fine. So the registered username is not being used here. Why not? Seems like that's what should be used.
Was registered username just put in?
Yeah, it's new.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's why it's not in, because we didn't know about it.
Well, I'm telling you about it, so
okay.
So we can all happily use it. And for some reason, it's not documented. It probably is documented in the 11.3. That's surprising that it's not documented there.
No, it doesn't exist yet. It's not even in DocuTools.
Really? Well, maybe that's a mistake.
Yeah, I made an action item for.
Okay, so who is? I believe this is something settable in the cloud account settings, right?
Possibly. I don't know. It's I was just looking for $*name and I saw $registered username pop up. But
okay, well, why don't we check that with, I think, Aga and Brad, who should be involved in this through the authentication discussion.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Checking.
Yep.
Okay, and then let's plan to use that if that's what. Okay, so this is now chat settings.
Which does the same thing as the window menu.
Okay, so this should presumably, this should default to registered username, assuming that we're not confused about what that is. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, and if it's none, it should probably just be blank. None is the default version or the default value, right?
Of what? Of
registered username.
Yes. Then this should come up blank here.
Yeah.
And there should be no screen name, but here right now.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's an empty string, not none. Just so you know.
well, that's probably wrong.
Yeah.
So if I do that, will it immediately light up there?
It doesn't change existing chats. If you started a new chat,
Okay.
take effect. And then, I mean,
A
that's
new chat, a whole new chat. That's silly.
I think that's true. I mean, we can try it here. If you, the next time you send something, we'll see what happens. But I think it's. You don't have to select it. That's actually going to send everything there. Anything that's unsent in the chat notebook gets sent when you click the send button. So $registered username and New York City, that'll all come through. And yeah, I got it.
Did you get it from the Big Bad Wolf, or did you get it from?
From S.Wolfram. Same thing as what you saw on your screen there.
Okay, why don't I change that back so we don't end up with some stupid thing?
If you blank it out, it should just come back to your email address. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good. So if
and if you're curious, I can in fact manipulate in what you sent. I can drag the slider too.
Okay, we have a question from the live stream. Say, hypothetically, I type in Brian's email in, I think this person has a pre-release 11.3. Will it form a new chat, or will it join this chat?
If you go to File, New Chat, and start a new chat, it will be a new chat. Right now, you can't join existing private chats. This would be considered a private chat. We'll also be discussing persistent chat rooms that people can join and leave at will.
Okay.
By joining that, then you would join an existing chat. But right now, you can't join this chat.
Okay. So my next, okay, so you did get this, let's see, these things have no tooltip, which is bad, and no lighting up. See that?
I'm surprised they don't have a lighting up. I thought I implemented that, but I'll take a look.
Okay. And they probably should have a tooltip.
Insert a cell as plain text or input.
I find these very obscure for some reason. I find this thing here very obscure. Why? How can we help that as a way to make it less obscure, that this is an inserted thing?
I mean,
what I'm saying?
Part of the original design, which might not make it out for 11.3, is to actually make these things togglers, which doesn't change the fact that they're a little obscure, but would make them easier to use. If you want to type a bunch of input, you just click input cell once and it stays pressed. And you can see that everything you type will now be.
Yeah.
That's nice to have, but it doesn't really answer your question.
By the way, I don't understand. This says input cell. This says plain text. That doesn't make any sense. It's got to say.
No, that should be input
text.
Yeah, or text cell
or input cell. Yeah, text cell, input cell.
Thanks. Right.
Okay. Now the other thing we could do is to say new cell. Once you have the toggler, it could say new cell : and then text or input. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like once you've pressed it in the press.
No. What I'm suggesting is that it says new cell : and then it's either text or it's like radio buttons.
Oh, you meant the new cell would be text before the togglers.
That's what I'm saying, yes. I also think visually, and this is a question for Billy, that these things should slide in to align with the left edge here, not be hanging like that.
I think there was also a time when that margin was totally to the left.
I think in the latest design it is. That design page there's
fine. So there's something wrong.
So until that happens, if we were to include the text that says new cell, that might help it a little bit more.
Okay. Well, if we've got the toggler, I think it'd be really good to have that toggler.
Okay.
Actual bits that you interact with will be to the right.
Okay. All right. Let's go back to our agenda here, because I'm okay. Why don't you send me by chat where the agenda is? What happens to a hyperlink? Does it come through okay?
Brady's got it. So Brady, why don't you send a new chat and then Stephen can see the invite.
Well, he doesn't have. Wait a minute, he's not in our chat, so I've got to add him.
Well, no, you can't add people, remember. But if Brady starts a new chat with you, then you'll actually get to see the invite window. and see what it
I
looks
see.
like
Okay,
when you get
fine,
invited
fine.
to.
That's good. Brady, go ahead and do that, please.
Okay.
Copy channel UUID. What do I get there? Oh,
Simply
for goodness sake. Brady has invited you to chat. Doesn't that want to be bigger? I mean, isn't that kind of a big deal? Who's invited me? I mean, it's hardly a footnote. Who's invited me?
Yeah, I think you're right. But Billy, do you have thoughts?
Billy, are you there?
I think somebody dropped.
I think he's having headset trouble.
Okay, well, we'll take it back to him. I think you're right, Stephen.
He's back now. Billy, there's a question about the size of the font in the dialogue that is on the screen.
Can you see it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, my internet
This
died.
should not be a footnote. This is the main event. Brady invited you to chat.
Okay.
Thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, the chat invitation could be, if anything, smaller, but it just, it's got to make it clear it is a chat invitation, but it's like, Brady invited you to chat. I don't know whether we want to, so that's the screen name of that person, right?
That's right.
And that's the only thing we're giving. Okay.
It would be the email address if they didn't have a screen name set.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, accept. Brady's chat. Now, where is that coming from? Did you put that in, or is that being added automatically?
That's the standard.
That's the default. You put testing in for the title, which is an optional field when you're making the chat. Yeah.
I have to say, I think if we're doing this, could we put it in parens? If it's just a time, if that's being used as the faux title, so to speak.
Just put the whole thing in parens. Do we want anything else?
Put the paren.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, fine.
Put that in parens is what I'm suggesting.
That should be
okay. Well, we fail because I can't click that link.
Huh.
Huh.
I can't click it either.
Oh, wait a minute. I can now click it. Wait a minute.
Yeah, that happened to me too.
I don't know
you
if
gave
there's
me a
anything.
Dropbox link. You can't do that.
Well, I'd send you an attachment. I mean, I can put it in the cloud really quick.
No, just send it an email then. You can't give me a Dropbox thing, okay? Just send it an email, please.
Okay, I sent an email again.
Did you send it previously?
Yep. I told you when we got here.
Yeah, that was the agenda email. It was like 4:30 something, whatever. It's fine.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
So we have 4 functions that we're going to expose. This is separate from the UI-driven stuff that we've seen, the file, new chat, whatever. These are actual language functions that we're going to expose.
Hold on, actually, we have a couple of comments on the live stream here.
Okay.
One is, how about a plus button that gives a drop down with the different types? For this, I don't think we want that because I think these are really the 2 types of interest. And if you want to start sending section heading cells, then you kind of, that's a more sophisticated case. These are just toggles that are super common types of toggles.
That's not to say that sections wouldn't work. They do come through.
Yeah, they'll work fine. Right. Second comment is chat invitation is a standard Cocoa alert. Just flip the contents for it to work as expected. Who understands that comment?
I don't understand it entirely, but it sounds like a Mac specific thing. I'm not sure.
Indeed, but Billy, do you understand that comment? Do you know what is what we've got there? That's our own dialogue. That's not a system standard dialogue.
That is our own dialogue.
But perhaps there is a system standard for a chat invitation, which I do not know. Okay, by the way, with respect to this thing where it's pasting the, why would you want to paste the chat channel UUID?
That was actually your request. If in the future as we flesh out these language functions, there will be programmatic ways to access chats, programmatic ways to interact with an open chat window.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then why don't we, but for goodness sake, let's paste it as a string, okay? don't paste it as plain text without the quotes. Make sense?
Yep.
Scroll on new message. Is that a toggle?
Yes. Both that and show in out labels are toggles.
So those in out labels, what on earth are they? I mean, I don't even understand what these are. Why are those in ones down there?
You evaluated that before you evaluated the manipulate. I mean, that's the order you evaluated them.
I see. But these are not reflected in your in out labels, correct?
I don't see in out labels at all.
Okay, well that's probably wrong because you should probably see the modern.
Actually, I mean, I see your in out labels. If I turn on in out labels, I see yours. But you're saying that we should see the no number in out.
I think so by default.
Yeah, we'll have to talk to the front end group and see how those are actually hooked up.
I mean, or should we be seeing the ones that are for the
I mean, in-out labels are kind of an edge case anyway. It's really just for, in-out labels only make marginal sense in something like a chat like this, especially when you have more people. It's really just for look back at my in 42. And then somebody can easily find an input from you that was in 42. I mean, that's why we have them off by default. They're really not as useful as you might think.
Sorry, I didn't understand that. You're saying somebody is referring to in 7 or something.
You could say my in 7, but the thing is that if I sent an input back to you, mine would be in 1. So you would have an in 1 and I would have an in 1. And so it's if you have, say, 10 people sending in inputs, they're each going to have their own numbers and they're almost certainly not going to be in any sort of order.
Right, so, but having the no number in outs is definitely worthwhile. That I think is very useful. No, we should have that because otherwise it's obscure what's going on.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, unless the only case where I don't see that being necessary is if you send a single cell that is the output. Meow, ba, 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 ba. I mean, if you send the cell group, it's useful to see that there's an in cell and an out cell in the cell group. If you send a single input, you probably just want the single input.
Right. Well, and I mean, if the thing that I was saying before, the use case that I mentioned before, if we remove the numbering of the ins outs, that use case no longer is useful. Where I was saying, where person A says, go back and look at the chat history for my in 15. Well, that's not going to be useful anymore to say because the numbers are all gone.
Yeah, I realize. But I mean, I don't know how people, the point is, we're imagining a scenario in which most chatting in the world happens with people just chatting, not being also on audio. See what I'm saying? Whereas our use cases are a little different because we expect people will be, in a class sending chats or otherwise having audio as well as the chat. So this business about being able to refer back to previous things is more relevant there. And it's going to be pretty obscure because actually, oh boy, they're going to say those times are presumably in local time. So for you, yeah,
I'm on Eastern time too, so I see the same thing you do. But yeah, the time zone is switched. Brady's times would be central.
Right. So here, for example, you will see that will have been sent at 1556 for you, right? And that will show up as 1556 on your.
It does.
So the idea that I suspect that we will want something else here. I suspect we want the following thing for some use cases. We want literally a numbering of the a little number that you can switch on that numbers the each chat cell. Do you see what I'm saying?
It's basically like line numbers in a piece of code.
Yeah. It says so you can say on cell 252 or something. In other words, it'll be at cell 252 of the chat. I mean, that's assuming these use cases where you have an audio channel as well as having the chat channel.
Well, you don't really need an audio channel. You could just send a text cell that says, "Look at cell 252."
Yeah, although you could also send to cell 252 again if you wanted to.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Anyway, that's a future enhancement I would suggest.
Okay.
Would that be user facing or just behind the scenes?
No, user facing, because that's the whole point. You want to be able to know.
Yeah, it's a point of reference.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it'd be a little thing, not very emphasized. Maybe it could say here, I don't know where that number would be. I mean, it could be along with the time. So I'm saying a dot, a big centered dot and then a number. Billy, your comments?
Yeah, I mean, I see that. I feel like it would be either a replacement to the time, or I feel like it's kind of strange having it next to it because time is usually an indicator when you're like either doing text messages or messaging.
Yeah, but look, because we're dealing. Okay, so maybe this is a crazy case because maybe it's a case we don't care about because most of the audio. Okay, the case where this won't work is where it's audio on the phone where it's different time zones. If it's people sitting in a classroom, they're all going to be in the same time zone, presumably, unless there's a classroom that straddles a time zone boundary. But we won't worry about that case. See what I'm saying? So, in other words, okay, let's move on because we've got other stuff to cover. So, you wanted to cover. Where did I send the agenda again? Okay. Functions for 11.3.
Right. So we have 4 functions. 2 of them are basically just hooks into front-end tokens. And those 2 functions are the function that opens up, that does the same thing as file new chat, and the function that does the same thing as window chat settings. They're very simple. We did them because we could. If you want to talk about the guide page, which you just opened up, so we can talk about that.
Do I have the latest version? Do I need to update?
This is what you see. What you see in that tentative stuff is what we are suggesting.
No.
Or one version of what we're suggesting.
No, we don't want this. I mean, this is not the right place for it, right? Because I know it's related to channel communication, but this formatting stuff is relevant to how you do send message and so on.
Okay. I mean, we could certainly, it's easy enough to move underneath formatting. I was kind of going back and forth in my head about whether it should be under formatting anyway.
Yeah, I think it should be. Look, let's move it. I think what we want to do here, what on earth happened here? Wow. That's wild. It just disappeared. Well, let me delete that.
Well, I can move it underneath. That's fine.
No, because we've got more things to do with it. Okay. Let's see whether this works. Wow. It's gone.
Hey, do me a favor. Click new function page in DocuTools and just close it. Just to make sure that DocuTools knows what it's doing. Or get function page works too. That's fine. Yeah. Now just close it or whatever. And now reopen that. Reopen that guide page. Now try and copy and paste it. This is probably a consequence of you wanted guide pages locked down, and so there's a whitelist of people that can edit guide pages. But DocuTools has to be fully loaded.
Wait a minute, no. Guide pages? Really? I thought it was only the root guide page.
You wanted all guide pages because people were putting stuff in that wasn't reviewed, and you found it later. So
that's bad.
Yeah. So this has been in place for a couple versions.
So who is on the whitelist for that?
It's a pretty small list. It's you and Roger and I think Brett and me and.
Okay. All right. Okay. It's really quite okay. High security. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What should we call this? I don't think we want to call it chat features. Chat sessions. initiate a chat session. Why do we need to say that there?
You mean the full menu item? Those are menu item.
I'm well aware.
Oh, okay.
Open the chat settings dialog. I mean, don't you need, I guess you do need that. Okay, let's look at these then. So what is chat dialog?
So right now those links aren't actually those. Oh, okay. Well, so they do work. They're just not up to date, and that's fine. But
why is it linking to the live page there? Why is it not linking to the?
Because the authoring pages are in the Packlet. We have links to it in the
Wait a minute. What is this?
That's a system guide.
Okay.
And so those would actually
authoring pages. But wait a second. So there's an authoring page for chat dialog here or not?
There's not, because they're not system functions.
Okay, so is there a draft of that page?
They're out there in the agenda right here. Just click the link. It'll give you a download.
Actually, it doesn't. Oh, well, it's doing something. Ugh, mess. It's not opening.
I can just email these to you.
Oh,
Yeah,
it opened. It tried to open it in a new version. There it goes.
Question on the chat, just in case.
Well, yeah. What happens if you What happens if you send a dynamic delete file on here?
Down. In fact, here I'll you can try it if you want. Even just doing like user-based directory. Just do
okay,
file
so let's say
user-based dynamic of file names of user-based directory.
Well, so if I do here file names of, well, actually, let's just do dynamic of, let's see, what is it? Let's say dynamic of Wolfram ID.
Well, that's probably allowed through, because
okay,
I mean,
so
dynamics in general are allowed through. It's unsafe dynamics are not.
Okay, so if I send that,
unsafe dynamic.
So wait a minute. When this comes out on your side, what does it look like?
Brian V at Wolfram.com.
It's kind of cool, actually. I hope we have examples on these pages that show stuff like that. Or by the way, I assume we have workflow documentation.
That's underway. That is underway.
Okay, but we should put something in there about dynamics because it's not obvious.
Disabled.
Okay.
But we did take this into account, and that's actually why we're using a new kernel. So if you won't be able to show.
Okay, so for example, what would if I say user-based directory, for example, is that something that's locked down or not?
User-based, the string itself is not locked down, but I think file type, I think it gives none if you. So like you can't show. Yeah, file type of $user-based directory is none.
Well, send it to me. Send it to me.
Let me dynamic it.
Okay, so my own
sandbox mode, basically.
Yeah, it's sandbox mode.
By the way, this screen is starting to get confusing here because this gray color for you is the same as the gray of the bar here.
Yeah,
that'll be fixed with the upcoming reskin.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, everything that has been sent is going to get a kind of a lighter gray background than everything else. And there will be less
all right, but then prove to me. Wait a second. So this didn't prove anything. It gave the same result for me as it did. I mean, is that this kernel? So if I were to say file type of that outside of this kernel, just in a generic kernel.
Yeah, that would be directory.
Why is it blue here?
That's because that's I think that's a bug because you copied it out. That came up in a previous meeting. It's not us.
Wait,
you copied it out of a notebook that has syntax coloring turned off. I think it's just a front end quirk bug.
Well, did it get reported as a bug?
John was in the meeting when you found it last time.
I'll make sure.
I don't know, but we can check. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I mean, here it's here.
What? What do you do?
Dynamic of file names of user-based directory. I mean, I don't know that you want to evaluate that outside of in a regular kernel, but that would certainly give a list of files.
Why is it giving nothing there?
Because it's locked down in the
But
chat.
why doesn't it complain?
Well, that's not what sandbox kernels do. They just don't work. It just doesn't allow the operations to take place.
Yeah, but doesn't it have an indicator that like in the cloud, when you try and do something that's outside the sandbox, it gives you a message saying it's outside the sandbox.
And those very well may occur for those same cases. This is kind of a lower level case. I'm not sure of all the ins and outs.
Who did that stuff?
Ian set up this kernel for us. Ian Hojnicki set up this kernel for us. He would know, but I
probably should check into this because I don't understand what. Okay, so what are the cases where we think it's? I mean, the main problem is a dynamic. Are we locking down things that? I mean, if somebody says, I see. So the concept would be if you want to do something that is like a tech support type thing, could whoever's typing in our ears mute themselves? If somebody from tech support says, here's a way to check this or that thing or delete these files or whatever else, they send it through here. It doesn't evaluate here, but somebody can copy this out and use it in another notebook. Is that right?
Exactly.
By the way, why is it that the heading of this notebook doesn't say anything about chatting? It seems to me that this should say chat notebook, just like if you open a template notebook, it says, he claims, template notebook. See?
I see.
Now, maybe that little thing is
got our
supposed to indicate that.
little chat branding, but we can certainly add that.
Maybe the chat branding is enough, but it seems, look, maybe you've got better skinning of this, but this doesn't feel, okay. Is something better going to happen with these grays?
Certainly some of the grays. I don't know that we have anything in the pipe for the docked cell up there.
Okay.
But the other grays that you talked about with the plain text input cell bar with being the same as my gray.
Right. It feels like there should be something which separates off, which makes it clear that this bar refers to what is underneath it, not what is above it. So it would be good somehow, and it kind of is a different motif from these bars here, to somehow put something at the top of this that separates it from the stuff above it and makes it clear that it refers to what's below it. Get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. I think we'll leave it to Billy to figure that out, though, how it should look.
Billy, any ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I think that bar separating it as well as the changed background when that reskinning happens, I think will both be very helpful.
Okay, but notice that you've got bars here which mean the exact opposite thing. That is, those bars associate what's underneath with what's on top of them. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're kind of like different visual communicators as to what's going on over there.
So that needs to be something other than a straight bar. Maybe it's a dotted line or something. I'm not sure. By the way, another very trivial point is off by a few pixels. That dot is too low by a few pixels relative to that font.
Yeah, those are going away. So I wouldn't worry about it too much.
What's going away? The dots.
The
going
dots
away?
entirely. Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
That's all.
All right, fine. Okay, let's go back over here. Okay, so chat dialog. This dialog may be used to start a new chat. Okay, so if I just type chat dialog.
You have to do needs of chat tools first. Or less than chat tools or whatever. Okay,
but that's going away, right? I don't need to do that in future.
Well, that's where this is going to be because this is all experimental stuff. Right
No. If it's being documented, it's not. It's in the system context.
Okay, is all the Mongo link stuff in system?
No, but it's documented in a separate package.
Well, so
we don't document on. No. It doesn't go on a guide page here if it is in a separate package. It goes away. And I think it should go here. I don't see any reason we shouldn't have it here. So please put it in the system context.
Okay. I mean, getting the documentation pages in there is good enough. Getting the code we'll figure it out.
Okay. Now, did we go over the names of these functions previously, or is this the first time we're seeing them?
We've not gone over them, and that's what part of this is going to be about.
Okay.
I'm not completely sold on ChatDialog, even though I was the one who came up with it. I think CreateChat might be a little more analogous to what we're doing.
Yes, I agree. I don't think this is right.
Okay.
Hold on. Let's just look here. What is CreateChat room?
Now that is the only way that when we're talking about persistent chat rooms, this is the only way to do that.
You know what? We may not be ready to have these functions. You're right. These should be tentative. We're not ready for this.
Anywhere, should we actually not expose them in 11.3 at all?
You can expose them if you want to, but I don't think, I'm not sure we should document them. Let's go on going through them right now.
Okay. Well, create chat room is
Does nothing.
well, right, because you have to actually specify at least 2 arguments. There's the short name for it, which if you remember when we were using chat rooms during the coding competition, this is the thing that you type up in the new context field.
Okay,
And then
so,
the actual name for it.
Okay, so wait a minute. This is something that's like that or something. Is that right?
It can be, yeah. It's just the alias for the chat room. And then the
Okay.
second argument is the long name for it, the full name of the chat room. And that should return, right, that's the cloud object for corresponding to the chat. So now in mine, if I type in XX535, and you can do this too, go to File, New Chat, or evaluate ChatDialog.
Okay, wait a minute. ChatDialog.
And just up in the new contacts, enter in XX535.
Well, it's not what it says to do. It says enter Wolfram IDs.
Yeah, well, that's why we're kind of hiding this under language level implementation only. There's no UI way to create a.
Okay, so then what do I do?
And just join the chat.
Okay, but we should not have it work this way because this is asking for new contacts, which I don't understand. No, I mean, this thing here is a dialogue for creating a new chat. This thing here is the chat has already been created language level, which I think is right to create. I don't see that we need a UI to create a persistent chat. But then this is joining a chat. And I think that's a different piece of functionality.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there are certainly some things that we need to flesh out.
By the way, can I join that chat in the cloud as well?
I don't think any of this stuff works in the cloud yet for reasons that we've already gone over. The service link issue.
Okay.
Brady already sent something.
Lovely. Okay. What happens if I go to this cloud object?
I don't actually know. If you wanted to interact with it, that's why it's returned from Create Chat Room. It's similar to Create.
That's what it is.
Yeah, well, it's just
Brilliant.
an association of junk, I guess. But it's what a chat needs to work.
Can we mask this in some way?
Are there display forms for cloud objects? Can we do something like that?
Not sure.
In general, I mean, because all this thing is an association. If there's a way to mask it like you'd mask any other association.
Well, I mean, another way we could do it is to just have this thing be something that says this is a chat room, and then underneath, so long as we can programmatically read from this, it doesn't necessarily have to be. Ask the cloud team how to do this, because I think we've had a similar thing for the channel framework. Okay, if you go to the channel, if I say create channel, that's interesting. That doesn't come up as a link, but if I go type that link in, okay, you will see something kind of weird.
Oh, neat.
Okay, I don't know how that works.
For all channel broker, that might be something for all channelbroker.wolfram.cloud URLs. That might just be an override for everything.
I think it is, but I don't know how that works and whether we can use that here, and why it is the case that you're just using a generic cloud object here. I mean, you don't have to use a generic cloud object. You could have it be in a different directory, couldn't you? I'm not sure. I don't think it's the most important thing in the world, but we do need to make it so that this thing, the result of CreateChat room, honestly, it shouldn't be this. It should be some kind of chat object.
Sure, but chat object doesn't exist yet. I mean, it's
right. Okay, fine. So this is a temporary thing.
Yeah, and a lot of this stuff is just, we want to expose this for 11.3, and it's not done. It's what we can get done for 11.3.
All right, so then that's fine. Then have it be in chat tools if you want to document something as a chat tools thing, but we're not going to link to it from the system guide pages.
Fine. That's absolutely fine.
It'll
be findable from search if people need it.
Right. Okay. So let's keep going. So, I mean, so the basic concept is you are creating a chat room. Fine. You've got, well, we should just use delete object for this. Okay. So it seems to me that we need two things. We need a chat object, which represents an ongoing chat. Actually, it should be called a chat session object. And we need, no, that is the chat room. Why is it a chat room? What is roomy about it as opposed to just a session? A room would suggest...
Because it persists past your session.
Does it?
Yeah. I mean, that'll be there until you delete it.
Yeah, that's all of, and any chat room you make through CreateChat room exists until you delete chat room in.
So is this, I mean, is the concept of a chat room, is we really want to go ahead with that? I mean, that's old, I don't know what it was, AOL or something, style, whatever.
Yeah, IRC stuff, yeah. I mean, we certainly kicked around different terminologies here.
A lot of newer things use the word channels, which got really confusing, obviously, since we use channels in a different way.
Right. Just 1 second here. Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay. Okay, so, I mean, chat room is really old style, isn't it?
I won't argue with that. I think you're right. I don't know if it's still used, but it is, at least people at least know what it means.
I don't like it. It's really old style. Okay, hold on. Actually, we have a couple of comments and questions from the live stream. If you click buttons, plain text or input cell, it will insert at the location of the selected item, not necessarily below this gray bar. That's a good point. It can also insert a new cell in the chat itself. No, I don't think so. The only place where you can, the only place where you're doing editing, the chat, there's an extruded, it's like one of those, you know, printing calculators. You're extruding the information up at the top here, and the only place where you can enter new stuff is down at the bottom.
I mean,
is that correct?
That would be nice, but you can certainly type stuff up there. When you send it, it doesn't appear that way to anybody but you. And in fact, I believe it picks.
I mean, it doesn't. What do you mean?
So
I can type
whatever up there. I mean, there's.
Oh, for goodness sake! And then what happens if I press send?
It should pick that up and drop it below at the bottom. Oh no, but it picks it up for me.
Wait a minute.
It shows up at the bottom for me.
That's crazy.
I mean, if you're not messing up the history for anybody but yourself.
Well, so it allows you then to annotate, in principle, to annotate a chat. But if you, I think this is crazy, if I might say so. I don't think it should pick that up and send it. I think if I want to annotate this chat, let me annotate the chat. But don't send my annotations. Get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. I'm thinking about implementation details. I think we're going to have to. We might have to punt on that a little bit for 11.3, but we can come back to that.
Fine. That's what I think it should do.
Okay.
Second question, is it possible to have a chat with two different computers with the same Wolfram ID? Okay, that's an interesting question. What's the answer to that?
Yeah, I mean, you can have chats. You can have 5 chats going from this computer and 3 chats from another computer. Now they won't be. If what you're asking is, will you receive, will you receive chats from all of them on both computers? Will you receive chats from?
Yeah, the answer should be yes.
And
right?
that is true. I believe that is true. You will actually be, if you started 3 chats on this computer, went to another computer and started 2 more chats, you would be.
Okay, so for example, in particular, if I do a new chat for this one, whatever it is, how do I find out what the copy is? How do I get this one? Then I have to do copy channel UUID, don't I? And then I mean,
you're not going to be able to join that. That UUID thing is not going to be a whole lot of use right now.
Okay, but if I say new chat here, okay, what is the thing? Do I get? Oh no, that's not good. What was it? What did I call that chat? XX. What did I call it?
Oh,
535 was it?
Okay, why doesn't it display that here? That would be very useful for it.
Well, that's not the same chat. That's the chat that Brady sent you the agenda in. You have that open somewhere else. You're right. That would be good, but that's a different window.
Okay, but anyway, this is now. So that's my new chat room. So I've got 2 my new chat room windows, presumably, if I could find them.
I think you closed your other one, so I think you'll have to open a second.
Oh, I mean, I think if you do this, I believe it just pulls that notebook to the front.
You can just press enter, just so you know.
Okay. So it did that. Yeah. So we couldn't get 2 chats of the same. 2 of the same chat on the same computer. But if I go to a different computer, then you're saying
application.
What's that?
If you open it up in a different Wolfram desktop or in a Mathematica, you could do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it will come out twice, you're telling me.
It does.
You would get it in both windows. Yeah.
Okay. So fine. So the answer to that is yes, that you can have 2 different computers, same Wolfram ID. Okay. So let's go back over here. We were talking about chat room versus. So I think chat session object is clearly the name of the session, and that's what should come back. What do we want to call this thing that is currently being called chat room? We cannot call it chat room. It's absolutely crazy. Okay, so now XX535. Okay. Now this again, it needs an indicator that it's starting a bunch of stuff up.
Yeah. And it probably should actually change the OK button to something.
Okay, so this is 2 copies of my new chat room. Send me something here. Okay, so why is Brian Mr. Green versus Mr. Purple?
It depends on the order that you join.
But it doesn't, because we've got a green on the left and a purple on the right.
Now. I joined first last time, so I'm blue both times. I don't know.
I see. I got allocated as purple. Okay, that's fine. Suggestion on the livestream live chat. I don't understand that suggestion. This has to do with whether it is a persistent chat. So this would be, okay, so first of all, we've got create chat session. That is, what is that? That's for a given, I don't understand what this is. So this is.
So there are 2 different kinds of chats. You've got persistent chats, avoiding the use of room, and you've got, I don't know, ephemeral chats. And they both could be considered chat sessions. So we have to come.
No, persistent chats. I mean, what about a chat channel if it's sayable?
But is that the persistent one or the non-persistent one?
That's the persistent one.
Okay.
Is it correctly? I mean, it is correctly a channel with a UUID, isn't it?
Yeah, these are channels.
No, but is it? But if you have a chat room, as you're calling it, does it always get the same UUID?
I don't understand what you mean. Each room has their own UUID.
It'll never change.
Okay, so
no.
in what sense, what is the persistent thing that represents the chat channel or the chat room?
It's all persistently stored as a series of cloud objects.
No, but you said the session goes away when I close out a session, it goes away, right? So every trace of it goes away. Is that
when you delete chat room? Currently, if you delete chat room of a
what's
channel,
the difference then between a chat session and a chat room?
With a private chat, if everybody leaves, that channel's cleaned up. It's deleted.
Private chat being the thing that you make through file new chat and type in your contacts, whatever.
Chat room, everybody leaves. It's still there waiting for people to join it again.
Well, so maybe we're naming the new chat wrong. Maybe it should say new private chat. I mean, maybe they're two different things, new private chat and new chat channel.
Create private chat, you mean?
Well, in the functions, yes, create private chat, create chat channel. If those are, and then, but then the next thing you need is, given a chat channel, you need to initiate chatting to that channel, right? I'm confused now.
I mean, we're kind of beyond 11.3 scope here, but create private channel. How it would be fleshed out is we'd have to have some, like you were saying, some way to specify contacts that you want to send this to. Additionally, you might want to optionally set a first message that gets sent through right away.
Yes, but then also we're going to want to say, send message is going to want, and we may have a custom function specifically for chat, but send message is going to basically need to be able to send things to, what am I saying? To the chat channels.
Right, by UUID or by chat channel, by chat object or chat session object expression.
Right, but then the other thing we're going to need is a chat receiver function, which needs to, because if you want to set up a bot on a chat, that's what you need, right? You need something which will automatically respond when it is. You need something deployed, presumably in the cloud.
Sure. I mean, and that would just be overloading channel receiver function. I mean, we use channel receiver functions for a number of things in chat already. Being able to specify a custom one, I think, would be nice in some cases.
Right. So we also, I'm going to have to go in a moment here, unfortunately. Let's see. Getting this to work in the cloud is important. Do we know what the state of that is?
I don't know if anybody cloud here is here.
I've been inquiring to Matt because he's tracking the tickets for that, and I haven't gotten a response in a while. I'll walk over there after this meeting.
Okay. Okay. All right. So the things we're going to need here, I mean, I think we're going to have to loop back to this. I don't understand what private chats versus persistent chats. I don't quite understand whether the chat object is different for those two, or whether both of them just have a chat object. I mean, even if you have a private chat, I don't see why you shouldn't be able to have some way to add a person to the private chat.
Sure.
Suggesting that it just be a chat object.
And that's a planned feature.
That's planned. Yeah. I mean, and these, a persistent chat and a private chat work the same. It's just, they work generally.
Didn't we have a specification for this before? I'm sorry. I thought I remembered now that we had a create chat, and then there was the question of whether it is a specifically for IDs, right? ID 1, ID 2.
Yeah, we did talk about this. There were a lot of issues that I think actually the last time we talked about it, you maybe weren't feeling well, and we kind of tabled it because it got very complex very quickly, because we're talking about permissions groups and having it was specifically when we were talking about teacher-student scenarios where you might have multiple teachers with multiple students broken off into separate groups of students that could all interact with each other but not other groups.
Oh yeah, I remember this whole. Yeah, right. And we had a graph. We had a general graph.
Yeah, it gets really, really crazy, really fast.
And actually on that note, I started looking at those old notes of that conversation, and we were calling, so like right now we had created create chat room, but Stephen, you would spec that as create group chat. Do we want to term these as group chats again?
I don't know. I'm not a chatting kind of guy, so I don't really know this.
We shouldn't say group chat because private chats can also be group chats.
Right.
You can invite as many
Yes, I don't think that's right. But what I do think is we have a suggestion here, instead of chat room, meeting, ephemeral, journal, persistent. Yeah, those are all relevant words.
Yeah, I guess Zoom calls them meeting rooms when they're persistent. We could research more of these.
Yeah, can we please do that? Okay, but another point here, please perhaps also disable cell print. Dynamic of cell print of test update interval of 1.
Yeah,
That's an ugly thing.
That can wreak havoc on your messages window.
Yes.
I mean,
I don't understand why. I mean, it's pretty cool to be able to send something through with dynamic, but the main issue is not what comes through as a piece of code, but what comes through as a dynamic piece of code. Right? That's the place where we really need to be sandboxing things. Is that somebody sends somebody a grenade with its pin pulled out, so to speak, or whatever it is. Right? It's less relevant if you send, I don't actually know how these things work, but if you send the grenade with its pin still in it, the person can choose whether to pull the pin out or not. The problem is a dynamic where it already has the pin pulled out.
Right. I mean, it's yeah, and we did go over some of these before, some of these issues before, and that's why we sandbox. Like I said, that at least covers the egregious issues of file system manipulation.
No, I understand. Right. Okay. Well, so there's probably more to think about there.
There are certainly annoying cases like the cell print issue that came up. Yeah, I mean, it's annoying, but I mean, we've got a powerful system. How much can you can do a lot of things. How much do we really want to block people from being able to do?
What are you doing?
Oh, you just spammed your messages.
Cute. Very nice on it. What do I do here? How do I get rid of this?
You can't.
It's just
if you delete the output.
No, you can't. It's not a delete.
Yeah, you have to format the expression and delete it. The null.
All right, that's probably a sign that we should be wrapping this meeting. Is this going to keep going forever? I have to quit this session probably. Okay, so we need a separate meeting then to talk through all of these create chat things, and we'll end up with these chat graphs and so on. And we probably should think through how that works.
Okay, well, just for 11.3, because 11.3 is wrapping here very soon, we can change ChatDialog to CreateChat.
Yes, please do.
And is there anything else?
Well, what were the other names? What were those other names? Let me just take a look.
Chat settings dialog, which opens the chat settings dialog.
Blah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple, but if anyone wants to do it programmatically, they can. Why
would they want to open a dialogue programmatically? No. I mean,
okay. We added it because we could.
Let's not.
Okay, good. And create chat room and delete chat room. Which you said delete chat room could be delete object, but I don't know that. I think it's probably too late in 11.3 to hook that up.
Fine. Have that be in the package as delete chat room. But I think, in other words, in the create chat room thing, what are we going to call it? For now, let's go retro and call it create chat room. But we expect to change that later. And
you want to
package.
You want to change it still before 11.3?
No.
Or okay.
No, I don't care. I mean, for 11.3, it's just going to be a downloadable package. I mean, it's just going to be a loadable package, right?
Yep.
Okay. I have to run.
Thank you.
See you guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye.